Welcome to the program, everyone. Mondo Gonzales here in studio with our good friend Graham Keelan from England, and we're going to be discussing some interesting things. He's here for some other things that we're going to be recording, but we wanted to give a quick update on certainly what is hitting the news from a prophetic perspective, which is Trump and Netanyahu's meeting together, talking about Gaza becoming a Middle East Riviera. But we're going to get to that in a moment. Just want to remind everybody that we have our upcoming conference in Orlando, Florida, March 27th through 30th. If you have not checked that out, go to prophecywatchers.com. You can scroll down and see the banner. Join us there. Hopefully it will be very nice and sunny. It'll be nice to get out of Oklahoma and get over there. We also have an opportunity for you to live stream if that is an option for you. But we have over 20 speakers. It's going to be a good time. Lots going on. And as we are watching it just in the last few weeks, Graham, welcome. Things seem to be changing every single day. We get up in the news, you're in the UK, in England, and you see it too, right?
Yeah, I was going to say it's a whirlwind, but I'm in Oklahoma. I should say it's a tornado, right?
Exactly.
It's just, it's certainly, Mondo is certainly not like the last incumbent of the White House.
Yes. So your initial thoughts, I mean, you come from an English perspective, and, we've had a couple weeks of, again, a whirlwind tornado of executive orders and changes and, cabinet members being brought in. From a foreign perspective, What are you seeing happening over here? What's your thoughts? I mean, you're a Christian too, so I'm prophetic, but what's your thoughts?
I mean, as an Englishman, I have to say I'm pretty impressed. No slow plodding of the British Empire here for Donald Trump. It's like Greenland, Canada, Mexico, Panama, and now
Gaza.
The Gaza Strip. It's like, how many more states are we going to add to the US? But he's certainly, he's certainly gotten down to work very quickly, hasn't he? And obviously, some of the things are probably more outlandish than others, but he seems to be having results. I mean, whether these are all sort of like bargaining chips, as it was with Canada or Mexico to get them to come and talk, and now they're talking. It's, compared to your politics, ours is pretty slow.
Well, as we know, generally speaking in history, our politics have been relatively slow. I think this is what's interesting about this is because, I have no personal, real strong opinion. I'm not for Donald Trump. I'm not against Donald Trump in that sense. I'm for Jesus Christ. So whatever people think about the person, that's irrelevant to me. Again, I don't know anybody's heart. So a lot of the things that he's doing, I don't know what the motives are. God hasn't told me what his motives are. People write to me telling me he's Antichrist, and other people say he's next to Jesus Christ almost as the Savior. Okay, so I'm going to take neither one of those positions. Yeah. Ultimately, I look at the policies, and the policies that are being implemented, I'll tell you what, are a dream. Now, what might they end up being or being used for? I don't know what the end result is, or what the motives are. But when I can look at the news and see that sex traffickers are being arrested, borders are being secure, all these other things that are happening as it relates to accountability, those are all great things. So whatever happens after that, I'm going to enjoy the moment, so to speak. But also want to say that the person of Donald Trump, in the sense of we know him, he's a real estate mogul, the art of the deal. A lot of these things, the way I take it is I say, hey, just relax, in the sense that when you're negotiating, you always throw out a high number, right? You always throw out this outlandish thing. I'm not giving you that, and then you end up coming, and that has been his lifestyle. So when he says these things about Canada being the 51st state, or Greenland being the 52nd, or even whatever, it's not so much that it's I'm going to do it by force or take over the world. I don't see that at all. It's let's see what we can get out of this because there are national security reasons. So, but recently, I'll just say this, and then I'll hand it over to you. In that, what we have seen is putting out these tariffs and other things, and very, very quickly, Canada bowed the knee, Panama bowed the knee, Venezuela, Colombia, Even Greenland, they've been pretty firm. They're not selling. It's not for sale. But yet they said, well, we're very open to security. We know China and Russia and other things are out there. So they're open to developing more. So those things have been very effective so far, what he's done in protecting the country from fentanyl and everything else. But this latest thing, which has gotten my email box over the last 24 hours has gone off the hook, is Trump meeting with Netanyahu. And no doubt, from Netanyahu's perspective, loves what's going on. I mean, this is wonderful. And this is what he was waiting for. He's waiting for Biden to get out and have Trump come in. And Trump in his kind of whips this out. It was a surprise. It was told to us that he had this in the works. But the idea of making Gaza, transplanting Palestinians that live there, making Gaza a Middle East Riviera, where all kinds of world people would live there. Initial thoughts on that? I mean, you heard it. You were with me when we kind of heard all this. So what's your thoughts?
Yes. Ambitious. That's the one word that comes up. And listen, you've got to credit the man. The man does have a dream and he does have ambition, right? Mm-hmm. So he's not waiting to retire. And before we get into that, I just want to add something also. What you were talking about, what's happened is the woke virus is being vaccinated. I don't know if we can use that word. You might have to take that off. But where a man is a man and a woman is a woman. And who would have thought that would be so revolutionary?
Still, I mean, in the UK, you guys still have confusion, correct, about this?
We don't, not
pronouns, all that.
There is still that, and that speaks to a different issue. I just want to touch on that actually, because I mean, our Prime Minister eventually came to the conclusion and and said, well, 99% of women don't have, so, but it's just weird, isn't it, Mondo? It's just like, why did this so infect the Anglosphere, right? Why? I mean, it came from these shores, swept onto ours, but Australia, New Zealand, why? A lot of the Europeans didn't really have any truck with this nonsense, about, listen, a man is a man, or a woman is a woman, or a man can be a woman can be a man, and then all the transgender nonsense.
Yeah, sports, everything on the sports.
The sports, and that's another radical thing that's happened. Men can now not compete in women's sports. So, wow, how revolutionary is that? But it shows how far that we had fallen.
Common sense has returned.
But I thought about why is it? And here's the reason I've come to. Is the Anglosphere, more than any other grouping in the world, and really it's the American, it's the Anglo-American, and then obviously the English-speaking world, have promoted the idea of autonomous rights, right? So you look at my own nation, we were never an absolute monarchy at all, ever. The Europeans did have absolute monarchies. So again, it's a very British tradition, but it's also a very Protestant tradition, it's a very Christian tradition. So what one could say, and the argument has been made about this, is that really all of the woke stuff, my rights as this and my rights, my individual rights, really grows out of the entire Protestant Christian frame reference. But of course, if you remove God from that ideology, you come up with this. Yeah. And I come to the conclusion, I think that's why the Anglosphere was so infected with this, because we have led the world in terms of the promotion of individual rights. Yeah. But like I say, thankfully, common sense is returning, because you can't change your gender. I mean, you just can't.
Male and female. I mean, it's in the Bible, right?
It's just like it's, Anyway, but I wanted to mention that because again, that's something he's brought back. I mean, we did back home. We had sort of some of the sporting bodies had moved to not allow transgender
in the female,
participation. The NHS, the National Health Service, it had been blocked. They were not allowed to use puberty blockers on children. So we were kind of...
You all were ahead of us.
So we kind of we kind of didn't go fully into it. So, but now that you're coming fully out of it, hopefully we will be able to come fully out of it. And it was pointed out to me, I did see it, that even the present London mayor has stopped his pronouns, taken off his pronouns off his Twitter account. Yes. So, you know.
I mean, here we are. This is where, again, we look at these policies of common sense that are being established. And, you know, as a Christian, we look, again, at accountability. We look around the world. We see strength. We see energy, independence, you know, all these things that are coming to be, which, again, you and I were talking that I would expect the Prime Minister of the UK to put your needs above mine as an American, just like I would expect our own president to put America's needs above the others. And you said it earlier too, that just that America in general is a very generous country. And so when America is prosperous, there is that generosity that goes out to the world. But let's go back to this. Let's go back to Gaza for a minute, because so let's talk about the reality. So Trump's there. He has an insight into Hamas. He has an insight into the Palestinians, and he's getting this, and he's looking at this 50-year, 75-year, 77-year problem since the beginning of Israel. We know that they left in 2005. Israel unilaterally withdrew out of the Gaza Strip, and then in 2007, Hamas got voted in, and of course, their goal is to eradicate Israel. So Trump is coming to this and saying, look, all of you people, United Nations, you name it, all the politicians, you guys have all tried, okay? You've all failed. Let's just have them leave voluntarily. As far as I know, he wasn't talking about forced evacuation. I didn't hear those terms. He said, let's give them an offer to go somewhere else for a little bit of time while we rebuild it into this amazing Riviera, and they're going to love to come back when all this economic prosperity and condominiums and value, everything else. Trump is he gets credit for thinking outside the box, right? Okay, we'll give him credit for that. What's he missing here? Graham? Is this a reality, or is this just a pipe dream?
I think it's his reality, and I think he's genuine, because he said, we can't go back to the last 100 years. But I think he's missing a whole lot in terms of theological understanding, spiritual understanding, and really the understanding of the people there. So just to pick up Nigel Farage, you know Nigel Farage? So he's like the Brexit leader back home, and he's the head of the Reform Party, and he says he's come out with Trump's plan. He says, the thought that wealthy, wonderful, thriving place with well-paid jobs, casinos, nightlife, it all sounds very appealing to me. And it's this idea of, it's not going to be it's appealing to a Westerner. And a secular Westerner.
Yep.
But it's not appealing to somebody who believes in the sacred right to that land, that they own the land. Because, we've discussed this before, that when the Israelis left Gaza was a Riviera.
Yeah.
Apparently it had a thriving nightlife, and people went from all over the Middle East down onto the Strip.
Similar to Beirut up in Lebanon, back in the 80s and before. And that's not like that anymore.
Yeah. And then when the Israelis left, unilaterally left in 2005, I think it was, they left in their agriculture, they left from their industry. I think about 17% of their agricultural industry, don't quote me on that, was there in the Strip. And they left a thriving economy for the residents.
And they did, just so you know this, Ariel Sharon, I watched it, they did force Jews off the land. They grabbed them physically and removed them off of the land.
10,000 of them.
To give it over to the Palestinians.
Yeah.
And what has happened since?
They even removed their dead, didn't they? They dug up their
because
dead.
They didn't want, they had a feeling, which would have been the case, that the Palestinians living there would have desecrated the Jewish graves. So what has happened in 20 years?
They destroyed it all. Yeah. They literally destroyed it all. And the money that has been going to
billions of dollars.
Yeah, billions of dollars, pounds, euros, whatever currency, has not been used to sort of rebuild the Strip or even build their own industries. It's been used to build tunnels.
Think about the value of billions of dollars coming in from Europe and other places with concrete and other things. Hey, build roads, build things, build buildings. Again, invest in your own prosperity. What have they done? Like you said, they built tunnels. And I read an article, they just uncovered it probably about a year ago, that all these pipes were sent over from Europe and others for water and sewage and other things, and they used them to build missiles.
Yeah.
And so Trump is his idea as a Westerner, he's thinking in terms of a businessman. This would be great. Everybody wants economic prosperity. But when you're dealing with radical Islamic indoctrination from children that are there with a hatred of Jews, they teach them, again, kill Jew, and that's what they did. That's what they're. You're dealing with an ideology here that doesn't care about economic prosperity. That's not what they're after, right?
No.
They're not even after, I mean, they are after their own autonomy in Gaza, but that wasn't enough. It was get rid of Israel out of the entire existence. And that right there is, economic prosperity is not going to turn that, that's not going to change that.
No, and President Trump's plan is to internationalize the Strip, right? But of course, as we've discussed previously, the British thought that to begin with the Peel Commission in the 30s, internationalized Jerusalem. They couldn't pull their plan off. Then the United Nations were going to do the same. They were going to internationalize Jerusalem. They couldn't pull that plan off. So the idea of internationalizing the Gaza Strip with the world's people, whatever the world's people, and he did say there'll be Palestinians in there. But it's interesting. I've been watching some videos, some interviews, Mondo, and this guy's in Israel, he's in Judea, Samaria, the West Bank, and he's in East Jerusalem. He's doing interviews with normal people who work in shops, people who work in the taxi drivers, just not terrorists, just normal people. And say, well, if there's a two-state solution, what do you think should happen? And the bottom line is always the Jews cannot live here.
We don't want to share.
Anywhere.
Yep.
Not just there, but anywhere.
From the river to the sea, the land will be free of Jews.
Yeah,
yes.
It's our land, and they have come in and they've stolen our land. Now, regardless of whether we accept that narrative, that's the narrative that they hold to, they believe, and it's very difficult to dislodge a narrative from a people.
It's an ideology. It goes back to a religion. It's an ideology. It's a philosophy. From the time they're little all the way up. I mean, we've seen it recently. They're dressing up, not just dressing. They are dressing kids, but with guns, and it's in the very culture itself.
Well, take American history. So the Americans, would understand this. The idea of manifest destiny. Mm-hmm. It was the narrative that this land has to be conquered. It has to be, it has to be. We have to bring our civilization, into this land, and over the 200 years, that's what happened, and no matter what, with the indigenous people here moving into reservations or what have you, or fighting the wars, it's that sort of thing. So if you take the idea of America's manifest destiny in building a nation on a continent, and just put that mindset into the Palestinians, that's their manifest destiny. Yeah. That land is their They do not care about condominiums. Nope. They do not care about casinos. It's not appealing to them. For them, the West is very decadent.
Yes.
That's the very thing they're regaling against. Is Western decadence, and so there is a civilization clash. There is a culture clash, and it's clashing very much there in the land of Israel, and. As much as the grandiose plans of President Trump and even Prime Minister Netanyahu, the fact of the matter is they're in blindness, obviously, because neither of them are serving the Lord, neither of them understand Scripture. Yeah. Even the Prime Minister of Israel, he's looking at the Israel through the lens of maybe Old Testament prophecies. This land is our land. Well, it is, but it's only the Messiah who's going to really establish that for them. So it would probably happen anywhere else.
Yep, exactly.
But not there.
Yep. And Bob McGinnis, he's been on our programs before, and he wrote a great article, and he listed 4 reasons, and he said, look. This is again, he gave Trump credit for trying to solve a problem and thinking outside the box, but he said, look, there's 4 problems. you're going to violate all sort of international rules if you force them off the land. I mean, that's just, again, those are war crimes. And they're not going to leave voluntarily. So you're out of the gate. You're going to either be a war criminal or you're not. The second thing he talked about is them moving off. Where are they going to go? Egypt and Jordan has already said they're not going to be open to it, nor will a lot of other countries. Saudi Arabia came out in the middle of the night and said, we are absolutely against this Trump plan. We are 100% pro-Palestinian state, or two-state solution. He also said that a lot of the refugees that would be moved into these other countries will probably end up back in the United States. Who knows? Because they've done it before. And finally, he said, you can't, the timing of this is unrealistic in that Hamas has to be destroyed before any of this becomes real. People have talked, it'll take 15 years. Trump will probably be dead before this ever happened in that regard. So,
and who's going to destroy Hamas? If the Americans aren't going to put their troops on the ground, and I know he doesn't want to get entangled in foreign entanglements.
He's been consistent with that. Yeah. So how's that going to happen?
Are the Israelis, and of course the Israelis would like nothing more than the Americans living next door. But here's the other thing. So the Russians have are losing their influence because they've lost their man Assad in Syria.
Yep. They lost their port.
He's gone. Are the Russians actually going to say, yeah, we'll have an American colony here on the on the Gaza Strip? I mean, and here's the other thing, of course. So to do that, you have to rewrite international law, UN resolutions, especially the 67 one. I think it's 224 or 221. I can't remember which one it was. The idea of the two-state solution. And of course, if America is like holding up the international rules-based order, now he wants to violate the whole thing by saying, no, we're gonna rewrite all of this. Well, you've got the 15 members of the Security Council then who have to approve your plan. And let's say you can get the French on board, and let's say you can get the British on board. You still got two other members of the Permanent Security Council who have a veto.
Yep, not going to happen.
And the Russians are going to say, sorry,
China,
it's not happening.
Not going to happen.
Because it will have to go through a UN resolution. It will have to go through all the legal processes. It can't just be, I want to put a golf course on here. It'll be nice, So commendable. Don't get me wrong, commendable.
Thinking outside the box.
For me, dead in the water.
Yeah, dead in the water.
Yeah, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I could be proved wrong, but I think.
Yeah, we could be proven wrong here, but we wanted to come out and at least give an assessment because another thing people, or my email box has been blown up in that people are asking, and is this prophecy being fulfilled? And they're quoting Zephaniah chapter 2, and I would encourage you to read Zephaniah chapter 2 and read it with a commentary because. This Zephaniah 2 is clearly not what's happening right now. This is not a prophetic development. Yes, the word Gaza appears there, but this prophecy in Zephaniah 2 was fulfilled already. It was fulfilled at least in the Babylonian captivity, where Nebuchadnezzar came in and destroyed all of the surrounding area, got rid of the Philistines, cleaned up all this area already, and it did become abandoned. It says Gaza will be abandoned, but Trump's plan is not Zephaniah. Zephaniah has already been done and over, and so as Christians, I think I love to see a current event and then be able to point to Scripture. Yeah. And I see, Gaza's in the Bible, Gaza's over here, but we have to be more sober than that. I think we need to not be reactionary and, again, look at things in a historical context. And what I will tell you is that, again, my background's in Old Testament history and theology and archaeology and stuff, and that was clearly fulfilled already. And so when people are just pulling out a text because it says Gaza and trying to apply it, that's careless. We don't want to do that because then we end up looking foolish, saying prophecy is being fulfilled when it isn't. And then if this plan comes to nothing, then we go, well, I thought you said prophecy is being fulfilled, so I guess God's word isn't true. So I think Zephaniah 2 is about the day of the Lord, and we're talking. That's what we're here to talk about in a different context. But as we've been saying before, the day of the Lord has a lot of different contexts. One of the contexts is the Babylonian captivity, which again happened around 600 BC. So anyways, well, Graham, appreciate your thoughts on this from a UK perspective. Keep an eye out because we will keep our eyes watching, as always, trying to give biblical response and a biblical worldview to all of this. But we are living in interesting times. And there's other things that Trump is doing with Netanyahu, which we'll be talking about in the future, which will contribute, I think, to prophetic developments, especially one of the things I talk a lot about is the red heifer and the third temple movement. So we'll talk about that maybe next time. So thanks for watching today. We'll catch you next time.